So if I'm just talking about the prisons, one of the things that I like here is the Diabolists, because if presumably you went to go fight the necromancer in the outside of the mud flats, and if you did, the Diabolists are the same design, so you look at them and you immediately know what their deal is. You'll be running through these areas with all the skeletons, and you'll see them put themselves back together after you've defeated them, and you'll be like, wait, what's going on here? I defeated these guys. Why are they endlessly respawning? And then you see the design of the Diabolists, and you say, oh, it's the same design as the Necromancer. They're doing the same thing. And so the game doesn't have to tell you, defeat the Diabolist in order to keep the dead permanently dead. You just know to do that. And these guys are such jerks. They just, like, the second they'll go towards you when you don't see them, so that they can be a pain in your butt, and then they will run away the second you see them, so you have to go chasing after them towards what and probably aggro whatever new enemies are there. Yeah, I love a good catacomb. A good catacomb level with just the undead prowling around, the ghouls that charge at you really quickly, the slow-moving necromancers who run away from you and bring you into other fights, the skeletons who endlessly respawn so long as the Diabolist is around. No, how can you not love a good catacomb level? It's one of the best levels in Dark Souls 1 as well. It's honestly, I consistently like the catacombs levels in all of the Dark Souls games, or what have you. They just know how to make them feel spooky. I don't know why I'm able to raise zombies out of skeletons. Do I materialize flesh back onto them? It would make more sense if I was summoning skeletons, and then I could turn zombies into skeletons, or skeletons into other skeletons. Them being zombies doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It is cool, but, one thing, so, likening this to Dungeons & Dragons, in Dungeons & Dragons with the most basic raise dead abilities, at least in 5th edition, you can summon either zombies or skeletons. And what I like to do as the DM, and I know there's a bunch of DMs who also do this, is you can make a skeleton pretty much out of anything. You can make a skeleton out of corpses, but you can't make a zombie out of skeleton. And it's pretty self-explanatory. The flesh is either there or it's not. But one of the things is, you can't make undead out of other undead. The home rule that I like, one of the home rules that I like, is that if you have a dead zombie, you can make a skeleton out of it. Like, the flesh melts off, and you're now using a different part of the... not even a different part of the body, but like the undead takes on a new form and keeps fighting for you. So I like that quite a bit. I had a player once who put a... he had this skeleton who followed him around. I forget what he named it. He was a necromancer character, and he put his skeleton in like a tuxedo the whole game. We had a very funny name for him, but I don't remember what it was. This is a little bit... the dungeon crawling is a little bit like the inventory system, and the problem with that, where it's just like you're endlessly just like scanning every inch of something over and over and over, trying to find the most minute differences. But I think dungeon crawling, it doesn't have you... unlike inventory sorting, you're not just staying in place the entire time. You are shifting around, and you actually see different things, and it's a lot more mentally, visually stimulating. Whereas with the inventory system, you're basically just staring at the same things over and over. You're watching paint dry, effectively. But it's while you make decisions on how to best optimize your character. I don't know what this mark the Diabolist is putting on me. It's definitely not like a fear effect. Yeah, I don't know what it does. It feels... doesn't really damage my health, does it? All I know is, this is surface level. This is what a new player would see. Is you see the green thing around yourself. Yeah, it doesn't affect health. It doesn't affect mana. I'm not entirely sure what it does. It's just I deal less damage. It's probably some kind of debuff. But new player sees area of effect green thing, and then as they walk through it, nothing really happens. I think that's probably an element that could have been improved on game design wise. Game design wise, having more of a visual cue of what some of these abilities do. Like the arrows raining from the sky, that's self-explanatory. The giant green disc that you walk into and there's some symbol floating above your head, I don't know if that's weakened me. I don't know if that's dealt damage. I don't know if that means that I can't if I couldn't use my abilities, and they were all blacked out, that would be something, but that doesn't seem to be the case. Yeah, so if you're a new player running through this level, you just look at that and you say, "Oh, these guys are useless. They don't do anything." The Diabolists are, aside from being annoying because they summon undead, they're pretty weak. That's what you would think going through here. There's something about elemental skeletons that I've always liked. I don't know what exactly it is. Something about skeletons makes them makes them prone to looking really cool when you surround them with fire or lightning or cold or something. Like I try to imagine that with like zombies. It's okay. A lot of undead. I try to imagine them like using magic, and you imagine I guess it's because a skeleton with magic, it's like a lich. Like there's something about it because it's human, but it's not really human, and it's so thin and wiry. And seeing the magic and the energy between the bones. There's something inherently visually appealing about that. It feels not exactly creepy. It feels cool. Skeletons, I think, normally are a little bit lame. I imagine what's it, Scary Movie 2, where the skeleton's going down the hallway and the main girl in the Scary Movie series, she's screaming, and then the black lady is like, "What are you doing? It's a skeleton!" And she just takes off its head and just starts throwing it around. That's how I feel about skeletons. They're more like goofy than anything, but they're like a goofy minion. Like they're not really a threat. They're meant to be fodder. And you give them bows, and you give them pikes, and you give them whatever, and it's like, oh, they're kind of a goofy little minion guy, the little Igors. But something about skeletons with magic, I don't know what exactly it is, but it's just so aesthetically appealing. I think coloration, it's possibly a color thing, where the skeletons are white like a canvas, and you're just painting it with various shades of magic. Because you like, what are other cool things with skeletons? It's like skeletons with like gemstones in the eyes or with golden teeth. Adding any kind of color to a skeleton feels like you're basically painting a canvas. And then on top of that, it's giving more flavor to this pretty dry enemy. So that's not that's not a compliment in the game's favor per se. That's just kind of a commentary on fantasy. Yeah, zombies are much more the brutes, and skeletons are much more like, they have them as kind of like in their minion form. They're like supposed to be like dexterity, nimble, and that's not usually how it plays out. I think that them being more of like the magical side of undead, while zombies are more of the brute form of undead. I think that's a good pairing. Not that in early Dungeons and Dragons you can really it wouldn't really balance. It wouldn't be good game balance if your skeletons could cast spells. I love the way these skeletons jog away. Yeah, there's nothing quite like playing this game for the first time and you come across a health potion and you're like, oh, yet another one. And it says, oh, can be identified. You're like, wait a minute, this can have more effects than just healing me? That is the coolest feeling. It's just like everything that you can get. It's like every single item that you can get can be a magical version of itself. Even though a healing potion is already magical, it's like we're just going to stack magic on magic on magic. It feels so wondrous. It feels like there's so much to explore in this game. You're like, what, these things, when I think that I've gotten a grasp on how it all works, what is going to take me to the next level? What is going to change my perspective on it? And that's what fantasy is, really. I think one of my complaints about modern fantasy is it doesn't really have that fantastical element to it. My wife and I talk about this quite a bit, but one of the great things about fantasy, and it's the reason why Tolkien wrote, it's why C.S. Lewis wrote. Well, I would say more Tolkien than C.S. Lewis, at least to my knowledge. No, I think it's fair to say for both of them. Fantasy exists to take you somewhere else. It exists to take you to another time and place. And I suppose I went on a long rant about this before, so I'll keep this one brief. But I think fantasy uniquely is able to bring you to a world where your logic is it, and sci-fi is the same. Fantasy and sci-fi can bring you to a world where the real world logic doesn't necessarily apply, and there's a sense of wonder in that. There's like so much can be explored. But what happens is with fantasy books, when they have conventions built into them, like conventions on how to write them. Sawbones, you son of a gun! Stop summoning things. But when you have conventions in fantasy that are stuck to so ironclad, it becomes a bit of a no-win situation. Like, you get an elf, and nobody wants elves to change. Everybody wants elves to be what elves are. The same way that you don't want Batman to be a different character. The same way everybody knows what an elf is. Everybody enjoys what an elf is. But the problem is that because we all know what an elf is and how it's supposed to work and how long they're supposed to live and what they're supposed to act like, so like I was saying, you can't really stray away from it, but it's also a little boring. It loses that fantastical element. It loses that thing that makes fantasy great, which is I'm somewhere where the rules don't apply. Because once you get used to the rules, it becomes commonplace. It becomes like, oh, this is reskinned reality. And this is where you get, well, this is partly where you get this group of people who are like, orcs are black people. It's like, orcs are not black people. Like, not everything is analogous to reality. But people get this sense of what the fantasy world is and what it should be. And they can't seem to drop it. They get fixated on it. And it becomes ironclad in their minds. And with that sort of inflexibility, there's no wonder. There's no amazingness. There's no sitting in awe at what you just read. And that's what makes fantasy. I can't imagine writing a fantasy book. Like I mentioned, I wrote one before. It is so, like, as it wasn't very well written. Like I've said, it definitely could use work. But one thing that I thought I nailed in it was just creating a world that didn't feel like ours. That felt just weird and different, and you would come across the ruins of something, and the characters would accept it as commonplace, but you as the reader would go like, wait, what is that? What am I looking at? It's this world with, I won't say like a bizarre logic. It's it could be a little bit more in that direction, and I think if I did rewrite it, which I might down the line, that's what I would do with it. Is just make it wondrous and make it otherworldly, because that's what fantasy needs, because that's what fantasy is. I will also say, so I didn't highlight this before, but the frequent use and availability of the teleportation circles back to the hometown, that's really cool, because you don't want to be constantly burning your portal scrolls. I think that was a major, well, I won't say it's a problem, but it's one of the features of Diablo 2, where you just constantly had to be stacked up on these portal scrolls because you had no idea if and when you were going to find the teleportation circles. And even if you find them, they might be miles away. You might have to fight a bunch of things to get to them. But the frequent use of them in the levels is good, because it also helps with the inventory problem, because you can easily go back to town, clear out your inventory, and then get right back to it, and not have to worry about your supplies on hand. I would say with regards to the Path of Exile world, I don't know, thinking about it, I would say it is fantastical. So even though everything is, everything obviously, because it's a video game, works by a system. So everything can be quantified, which is kind of one of the, in my opinion, one of the deaths of Magic, the sort of Sandersonian effect, where everything is quantified or exists by particular rules. It puts everything in the material world. It's a very I don't know, it feels like a very kind of Mormon way of viewing Magic, where it's, suddenly it's about like the planets, and suddenly it's about the, it puts everything within the realm of the reality we live in, and not this foreign reality. I'm not going to rag too much on Sanderson, because like obviously he's able to write things that are more in the fantastical vein. I just tend to disagree with his lecture-focused, like quantifying of magic and world building. Like, I know it's a formula that works, and it's what people want to read. But I don't know. It strips the joy of it. And maybe this is just I don't want to know how the sausage gets made. Maybe it works this way whether I want it to or not, and I just don't like it. And that could well be. But it doesn't change the fact, like, I go and watch Sanderson lectures, and they're brilliant. He's a brilliant guy. There's a reason why he's as successful as he is. His advice is for people who are trying to sell books, and it's not for really making something that transports you to another place. And I get it, because there's, when you see enough of that, when you have enough of these, like, unique ideas, it all starts becoming the same. But that's, it's the same way that I hate it when people are like, oh, there are 6 stories that in existence. There are 6 stories that have ever existed, and there are 6 stories that ever will exist. And I looked it up, and do you know what those stories are? It's like, people like to say that, and it's like, oh, there's only 6 stories, so nothing you ever make will ever be original. What they mean is that the 6 stories they're referring to are good thing happens, bad thing happens, good thing happens, or bad thing happens, good thing happens, bad thing happens. Like, it's the order of the highs and lows of the book. That's what they're referring to. Sure, if you want to break things down to that level, you can. But, like, what a terrible way of viewing stories. What a terrible way of viewing fantasy or fiction, any like that. That's how you present a story. That's not the story itself. Like, the ideas are a huge part of the story. In fact, it's why people go and read the story in the first place. They want to, as much as they want to feel those highs and lows, and as much as they want to have a particular set experience, like it's comfortable for people to be in familiar realms. A lot of people read books and encounter fiction to go somewhere else and experience things that they can't get elsewhere. Because if I could get it elsewhere, why wouldn't I get it elsewhere? Reading is hard. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot out of your day. It takes a lot of mental focus. And there are some people who are naturally inclined to reading, but I'm not. And when I go to read a book, I want it to be worth my time and to give me something that I wasn't getting elsewhere. That's also why I get into debates with people. It's also why I watch YouTube videos. I want to explore something that I haven't explored before, and maybe it only takes one little thing. I could read. Let's say there are 20 things that I read, and 10 of them are things that I agree with, and so they don't change my mind. 9 of them are things that I disagree with, and I say, that's stupid. And I still don't change my mind because it's completely useless to me. I'm like, that doesn't fit in with my worldview. I think it's completely wrong. Get lost. But there could be one thing in that 20. And that one thing could be, I disagree with it, or it's not even that I disagree with, I hadn't thought about it before. And that one thing I haven't thought about before can change my perspective on the 9 things I disagree about, or change my perspective on the 10 things I agree with. One little thing in a whole series of information can make you reconsider your whole worldview, and that is the joy of reading. That is the joy of debate and encountering new ideas, is because you may not have... In fact, you don't. I will say for certain, you don't have it right about the world. You don't understand everything about it. You are unable to quantify everything and understand the way everything is. Nobody is. Nobody understands it all. But we can see a different side of life, a different side of existence. And we can only do that by encountering things that other people have found. Other people go out into the wilderness of the information age and bring back a ton of muck and filth and things that are useless to you. But there is a gem, or not always, but there can be a gem somewhere in there, and that gem is worth all of the digging, in my opinion. And some people might disagree. Some people are like, oh, I found it, and it changes my whole perspective, but I don't want it. It's the allegory of the cave, where they go and see the sunlight, and they're like, nope, too bright, going back in the cave. I don't like doing that. So I will reject things if they are fundamentally anathema to my worldview, and I think everybody does to a certain degree, because if you didn't, you would go crazy. You would go completely insane. So you're naturally going to tend towards the things you already believe, especially if you have been... Well, I won't say especially, because there are people who are completely ignorant and know nothing about a subject and will claim to know everything about it and not engage. And that's a tragedy. But I think the best way to live is to be intellectually honest, or as best as you can be, because everybody has their own level of dishonesty, or not even dishonesty, but everybody has their own biases and things that they are unwilling to change about themselves and the way that they look at the world. And honestly, I'll say that can be fine. It's not always fine, but it can be fine. Getting back to what I'm talking about, though, Yeah, I hate the sort of endless breaking down of things into easily quantifiable, easily compartmentalized systems that just parallel everything to the real world, that just link everything back to the same, if not ideas, the same systems over and over and over, the same way to present information, the same way to write something, the same way to read something. It's just monotonous. And there's got to be more to it. And there is more to it. All right, I think I'll leave it there.